Here is something nobody told you and somebody really should have. Your brain is not finished. Right now, as you listen to this, the brain inside your skull is still being built. It is still rewiring itself. It is still figuring out what it is, and it will not be done until you are somewhere around 25 years old. That is not an insult. That is one of the most fascinating facts in all of neuroscience. Let us talk about what is actually going on inside your head, why teenagers think and feel the way they do, and why understanding your own brain might be one of the most useful things you ever do. We will start at the beginning. Your brain has roughly 86 billion neurons. A neuron is a tiny cell that sends electrical signals. Those signals travel through connections called synapses. And the more you practice something, the stronger those connections get. That is literally what learning is. It is your brain rewiring itself. Now, when a baby is born, the brain grows explosively. Connections form everywhere at a dizzying speed. By the time you are around 6 years old, your brain has more neural connections than it will ever have again. Then, something remarkable happens. Your brain starts cutting them away. This process is called synaptic pruning. The brain gets rid of connections that are not being used and strengthens the ones that are. Think of it like a gardener trimming a bush. The goal is not destruction. The goal is to grow something sharper, more efficient, more you. This pruning happens in waves, and the biggest wave of all happens during your teenage years. So when adults say your brain is still developing, they are not being dismissive. They are describing one of the most dramatic biological processes in the entire human lifespan. But here is where it gets really interesting. The brain does not develop all at once. Different parts develop at different speeds, and the part that develops last is the part responsible for planning, decision-making, understanding consequences, and controlling impulses. That part is called the prefrontal cortex. It sits right behind your forehead, and in teenagers, it is quite literally still under construction. At the same time, a different part of your brain is very much online and firing at full power. That is the limbic system, which sits deeper inside the brain. The limbic system handles emotion, excitement, reward, and risk. It is the part of your brain that says, "This feels amazing," or "I want that right now," or "Do it, do it, do it." So here is the picture. You have a powerful emotional engine running at full speed and a rational steering wheel that is still being installed. That is not a character flaw. That is biology. And once you understand this, a lot of things about being a teenager start to make more sense. Why do teenagers sometimes make decisions that seem obviously bad in hindsight? Because the part of the brain that calculates consequences is not yet fully developed. It is not that you are stupid, it is that you are literally still building the tools you need. Why do teenagers feel emotions so intensely? Because the limbic system is highly active and the prefrontal cortex is not yet providing its full moderating influence. Like, emotions hit harder when the brakes are not fully working. Why do teenagers sometimes feel misunderstood, even when adults are trying to help? Research suggests that teenagers actually process facial expressions differently from adults. When shown a photograph of a face showing fear or concern, teenagers are more likely to interpret it as anger or disappointment. The wiring for reading social signals is still being laid. Now, none of this means you are helpless, far from it. In fact, the developing brain has qualities that are genuinely extraordinary. The teenage brain is more plastic than the adult brain. Plasticity means changeability. It means the brain is still highly capable of forming new connections, absorbing new information, and learning new skills. That is why children and teenagers learn languages faster than adults. That is why young musicians become virtuosos. That is why the habits you form now will shape who you are for decades. The teenage brain is primed for novelty. It craves new experiences, new ideas, new sensations. That drive can lead to recklessness, yes, but it is also the engine of creativity, exploration, and courage. The same brain that pushes a teenager to do something dangerous is the brain that pushes a young person to start a business, learn a new skill, or move to a new country for an opportunity. The teenage brain is deeply social. Belonging matters enormously during these years, and that is not shallow. Humans are social animals, and learning how to navigate groups, relationships, and trust is one of the most important things a developing brain needs to do. Here is something that might surprise you. Sleep is not just rest for a tired brain. During sleep, your brain actively consolidates what it has learned during the day. It replays experiences, strengthens important connections, and clears away waste products that build up during waking hours. For a developing teenage brain, sleep is essentially maintenance time. Without enough of it, learning suffers, emotional regulation suffers, and decision-making suffers. Research consistently shows that teenagers need between 8 and 10 hours of sleep per night. Most get far less than that. And there is an interesting biological reason why teenagers naturally want to stay up late. The release of melatonin, the hormone that makes you feel sleepy, is shifted to a later time of night in teenagers compared to adults. So when a teenager says they are not tired at midnight, that is not an excuse. That is a genuine biological signal. The world, unfortunately, is not always designed around the teenage brain, but knowing how your brain works means you can make smarter choices about how you take care of it. Let us step back and think about what all of this means for you. You are not a small adult, you are not a large child, you are something distinct. A human being in the middle of one of the most intense and beautiful periods of biological transformation in the whole human life cycle. The intensity you feel is real. The confusion is real. The moments of brilliance and the moments of what was I thinking are both real. And both make sense given what your brain is doing right now. Knowing this changes things. When you feel overwhelmed by emotion, you can recognize that your limbic system is doing its job very well and ask yourself to pause before your prefrontal cortex catches up. That pause, even a few seconds, is the rational brain being given a chance to come online. When you feel drawn to something new and exciting, you can ask whether the pull is coming from genuine curiosity or from the reward circuit simply wanting a hit of stimulation. Both are valid, but they call for different responses. When you feel misunderstood, you can remember that reading other people is a skill, and your brain is still building the circuitry for it. That does not mean you stop trying. It means you stay curious about other people rather than assuming you already know what they mean. And when someone older than you makes a decision that seems overly cautious or slow, consider the possibility that their prefrontal cortex simply has more experience filtering out noise and weighing consequences. That does not make them right, but it is worth pausing before assuming they are wrong. There is a Japanese proverb that says, "Better than 1,000 days of diligent study is one day with a great teacher." Your brain, right now, is perhaps the most important teacher you will ever have, and today, you learned something real about it. You are not finished, and that is exactly the point. The brain you are building right now through every experience, every friendship, every hard lesson, every new idea you encounter will be the brain you carry through the rest of your life. No one else gets to build it for you. So pay attention to what you are feeding it. That is all for today. Keep thinking, keep growing, and I will see you in the next episode.